this video we will discuss about autosomal inheritance. So there are two kind of autosomal inheritance. One is dominant and one is recessive. And why it is called autosomal is because this genetic mutation or the gene mutation occurs in the autosome chromosome, not in the sex chromosome. So let us go through the autosomal dominant inheritance. So what happens in this autosomal dominant inheritance is that one gene is enough to show the trait or to affect the individuals. So in normal case, how gene is inherited from the parents is that one gene from the father and one gene from the mother is inherited into their daughter or son. And if any one of them is has this mutated gene, then there is a possibility that their offspring will also get uh, this bad gene, and the probability of their offspring gets affected is like 50% if only one parent is affected by autosomal dominant inheritance, as it is shown here in the figure. Is that there are two possibilities by which affected individual their offsprings of one affected parent will get the same mutated gene. However, the 50% probability that the of affected parents individual will not get this disease. And and there is also different conditions occurs is that even though the parents is affected, they will not show significant clinical symptoms, and but their next generation might show significant clinical symptoms, as it is shown in this tree diagram, that the one parent is affected by autosomal dominant condition, and their condition, there are 50% chances that their offspring will get affected, and 50% their offspring does not get affected. As shown in the first and third condition, the offspring will get affected by autosomal dominant disease, and it is symptoms are clinically visible. However, in case of second and fourth, the autosomal dominant inheritance is not visible, is not clinically visible. However, when we go to the next generation, we see that in the second case, the next generation will have is showing the symptoms for autosomal dominant inheritance. So one of the possibilities is that the symptoms are suppressed, or symptoms are not clinically visible in their second generation, whereas it is visible in the third generation. And this thing can also be possible with this other parent. However, in case of fourth, it is possible that the next generation is also not showing any symptoms, whereas one of these parent might have autosomal dominant inheritance. So this is one of the condition where one generation skip the symptoms of autosomal dominant inheritance. That is called, I'm not able to recall the exact name, but uh, that is something related to this non-penetrance in one of the middle generation relatives. Here the autosomal dominant condition is not that much clinically visible, or not that much penetrable within uh, the offspring of the first generation. So let us now understand autosomal recessive inheritance. So in this case, the essential condition that is required for the person to get affected is that both the copy of the gene need to be bad. If one copy of the gene is bad, then that condition is called a carrier father or carrier mother, whereas there is no such conditions as carrier exist in the autosomal dominant inheritance, as with only one bad copy of gene, that person might show the autosomal dominant inheritance characteristics or symptoms. So what happens in this autosomal recessive inheritance is that uh, if both the mother and father are carriers of the same autosomal recessive disease, then there are 25% chances that the parents, their offspring will get affected, as it is shown here. That only the daughter is get affected. In this case, out of the four children, this daughter is get affected by the autosomal recessive inheritance, whereas one daughter and one son has are the carriers, whereas one is completely unaffected. And this is shown in this probability chart. This is shown in the different probability chart. That is, 75% of the case the disease is not expressed. Here the cystic fibrosis example is shown, whereas 25% of the case disease is expressed. So this autosomal recessive inheritance uh, is difficult to uh, backtrace and identify from which generation or from which parents this autosomal recessive inheritance begins. Whereas compared to this autosomal recessive inheritance, autosomal dominant inheritance is easy to track down, because in most of the cases it is expressive, whereas in some of the cases this is not expressive, it is recessive. So I hope you have understood the difference between autosomal dominant inheritance and autosomal recessive inheritance. If you need to understand more in detail, you can go through the description. You can go through the reference that has been provided in the description. That's all for this video. Thank you for your time.